into picks and bans for game 2 we go then. Let's see if Trifecta can make some adjustments here. Sorry, LG I should say. Make some adjustments here and help them out. You mentioned ShadowChair, like maybe giving him a more priority pick. Puch is big in the meta right now, but not as much survivability as, you know, like as in terms of escape. He's got plenty of sustain to escape, technically.
Technically, but you need to make it to that point first. And ShadowChair to die at level 2 like that, it's some really rough stuff, very hard to recover, especially on a mage like Puch that is already so punishable in nature. So having to deal with an Ullr who's also like a level or two ahead of you and able to completely keep you away from contesting objectives and farm just made things a little bit too complicated there.
Well, we chat about Freya, Morrigan, and Athena. NeiruMah is available for LG to look to again. Now, they ran it in the support role for Geno last game and gave the Bellona over to Weaken in the jungle. They're going to pick the NeiruMah again. I don't know if they want to run that back, though.
I will admit, though, I was not opposed to seeing Geno on the NeiruMah. I think that Geno actually had a lot of great blink initiations into the Windfire and Wheels and did a nice job at isolating one member. It's just the follow-up was lackluster.
Well, the problem is the composition that they're drafting here, and the big issue I see is that if you're going to have your support player play NeiruMah, which is very frontline based, who's going to be peeling for the Puch at the back? Well, if the Puch isn't there in the first place because he's already dead, that's when you may struggle.
Originally, I think that the intention with the NeiruMah was Geno able to isolate someone, and then they punish them as soon as they land, and you've got ShadowChair's Puch ultimate to keep everybody out of the space so they can focus on that one member upon landing. It's just that once the Puch fell so far behind, it was just really difficult for ShadowChair to try and fulfill that role. Seems like LG might be trying to go for a little bit of a salty run back, but keeping in mind that Paul should not be allowed to have Ullr.
And they're going to take that away from him because of that. So more than likely in the Hunter role for Ullr this game, and Puch could be heading towards the mid lane. Erlang Shen for Trifecta to go with the Anhur Fafnir. Even though they had, 4 physical last game, as I'd like to put it, and I was a little bit worried about magical, it wasn't needed because it ended up being early game and it worked out.
That's all. It's just a race against the clock. If Trifecta want to still commit to this double Hunter, which I have a feeling they're still not all that swayed away from it, despite Luminosity having shipped away that Ullr, there's still Neath, there's still Chiron, plenty of different Hunter selections.
That's which ones you may go to next. I mean, Anhur could be in the mid lane for Paul here. So
that also.
Leave Zap hope for something else.
I think that Zap being a more flexible Hunter player, that might even be the best option for Trifecta if that isn't already their intent. Or we could just see Paul bring out the Raijin. You never know. Maybe he's filling up to it.
Could be quite possible. Hobwa just to take that away from Paul too, and Sobek to take away from Trifecta's solo laner. Won't be having that to have to deal with Kiki over in that solo lane too. Kiki did run the Cerberus last game as well. It's going to be NeiruMah instead. A completely different change of pace with the NeiruMah being locked in. She's a lot slower on the build-up.
I'm not entirely certain that this is going to be a NeiruMah in the mid lane.
Hunter.
I almost feel like this might be a Zapman NeiruMah just because
he's been hanging out with Emelito.
He's been hanging out with Emelito. I mean, we all know those guys love each other, so I would not be surprised if that's Zapman on the NeiruMah. If it is Paul on NeiruMah, then it might be a little bit of an easier time for ShadowChair there on the Puch, but that's kind of why I'm expecting this to be on her mid lane, just because I think Paul just wants to smother ShadowChair.
Is that going to be weaker on Cabrakan? I think it is.
Possibly.
I like it
could be Geno on Cabrakan also, or Kiki. I think maybe Kiki Cabrakan, and then Geno on the Cerberus, give Weaken the NeiruMah, and see if that bit of jungle pressure is going to be able to give some presence to ShadowChair to help assist him throughout that early laning phase.
Who do you guys think will win this game? Does Trifecta end Luminosity's day today, or does LG manage to find a way back into this one? You guys at home get to decide now. After the way Trifecta played game 1, I'm confident in them, but I don't think their draft is completely different in my eyes of like where it's going to be. They've got a little bit more late game with this new War on Rat available to them now.
I think it'll be easier for Luminosity to kind of corral everybody from Trifecta into one area to try and punish from there, but I am also very concerned about Trifecta's potential for their pick burst composition in the early game. Ratatoskr with the Through the Cosmos, and in case somebody tries to survive, it's up to Luminosity to have to make a heavy commitment decision between Aegis or Beats.
Let's see how this one goes then. The casters are standing by. Game 2. Can LG bring it back?
Thanks, Hindu. Thanks, Taco. LG up against Trifecta. It's time for the Game 2 clash. Finch and Aggro here on the call as well. We saw it last time. Paul really did pop off, and I was sitting here going, what are the chances they give that NeiruMah to Paul? Don't seem high to me, and they did not. It's Paul on the Anhur mid.
This is the right. If you're picking Anhur and NeiruMah, as Trifecta, this is the right way to put it. And I never thought I'd say that. I'd rather see NeiruMah and ADC in this match, but there would be no way it would be right to end up taking the pressure away from the god that just got you all the pressure. The dude who just won you the game, basically, by individually styling on the enemy mid laner. Give him the pressure matchup every time. And this is where Trifecta feel a little bit weak, though, is how do we clear? Where do we go? We can't contest a Ullr's NotGeno lane whatsoever, and so they end up surrendering the entire farm of the first wave in order to get their own red buff. They will miss quite a bit of this minion wave, though. Actually, I've only missed 3 melee minions so far, and that's not too bad. Zap should be able to get those archers, and so it could be worse.
Definitely not the worst situation that it could be, as it is going to be the NotGeno for Geno one more time here, Ryan. And for what it's worth, I think Geno played the NotGeno very well. That game would have been over a lot sooner, I think, had it not been for the impact he was able to have from the support role. If he can replicate something like that, if the mid lane could stay a little bit more relevant for them, this time they're in a position where I think they can have a strong performance as Sam goes to the repeat on the ShadowChair, but weakens there for the control.
Oh, not again, dude. I mean, Paul pushes ShadowChair away, but there's nowhere for him to really go.
Well, they give up on it.
Oh, because Geno is here. They give up on it because Geno and Clout have come over to escort ShadowChair to safety, just to ensure that we don't get a repeat of game 1.
No way you can lose lane like this, I guess is the idea, as they bring over enough people. And this is the right recognition, right? Because SmiteVOD sat in this middle lane with Paul last game and made sure that Paul got that early lead. With the knock up on this Erlang, the blink engagements, they gave him a ton of pressure. This time, if that's going to be the call, LG are saying it's not going to be that easy. As Kiki very nearly gets soloed out, and ScaryD makes out easy calculation. Put away the calculator.
That is where that Ratatoskr ability to purchase that extra pieces of his Acorn out of base ends up helping out Scary. If he's got Acorn 1, no chance he gets that kill. Boy, they're able to get Acorn 2, didn't even have it finished. He's able to pick it up, and he is forced to back because he was so low, so it does at least force out that teleport cooldown for ScaryD, but getting your Ratatoskr solo ahead, I've got a feeling, let's hold that thought, Zap and Neil both in trouble on this left-hand side. Clout, great pressure from him. I've got a feeling that this Rat solo is kind of just in the name of dunking mid lane as often as possible.
Yeah, this really does feel like trying to get over there and get some more pressure on the ShadowChair, right? Through the Cosmos, try and grab, some kills over there. SmiteVOD hanging out in mid often, as ScaryD looks like is able to defend his own blue this time, or rather steal away the blue this time with the pressure. Neil in some trouble on the left-hand side as well. He's still up there, so is Geno and Clout, but they're more concerned with the buff this time than the actual Fafnir.
I like this Cabrakan pick, though, for Weekend. I mean, Cabrakan's a god that we haven't seen that much of lately, but yeah, I think it does really, really well against Erlang Shen. I think it does well against the NeiruMah. Not as good against gods like Fafnir, but you can still make it work. Anhur as well. Scary's going to have a tough time getting up and over those walls if he ults in. I think this Cabrakan pick is in a really good spot, and it sometimes pays to just have a god that no one's played against in a while on your side.
There's definitely some value to that as Trifecta are still kind of making sure they're fully adjusted to this, to their own, roster change-ups as well. So maybe to try and put some pressure on them and make sure how comfortable are you guys up against this pick. You don't see that often. Could certainly be strong. But this really is a team that's going to make diving ShadowChair not too hard, right? The shining or the fire charge from NeiruMah can affect from even in duo lane, and ScaryD can rotate quick. Sam and Paul will be there as well. I mean, they're going to have to make sure that Luminosity, whatever it takes to alleviate that pressure.
Weekend actually started with that little Imperial helmet right away, so...
You got to call it Lil like that?
It is Lil, look at it.
I mean, is it?
Yeah, it's so tiny.
I guess it is a little tiny.
It's a little tiny. Oh, dude, imagine Cabrakan with that hat on.
It would be pretty funny.
Dude, that hat is literally funny in any situation. It's my favorite item in the entire game.
Yeah, like Cabrakan puts that hat on, he comes and delivers some bad news, and you're like, I have to laugh.
You're like, okay, my car got into an accident, but okay, sure. And someone hit my car in the driveway, but dude, that hat looks great.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's actually a pretty good tactic, I think.
Oh, I thought you were going to talk about picking up the item is good, like as a sort of like a.
I was going to say doctors should put that hat on when they have to deliver bad news.
Sometimes they do that, and sometimes there's ganks that happen. A good bead from Clout to get him out of there. He's going to look for the turnaround right away, but knock-up caused some problems for NotGeno, but immediately with the turnaround Windfire wheels, Clout will go down. ScaryD dashes out for now, and she'll be able to make it out, but he ends up falling to ShadowChair.
Sam barely able to escape those tremors. Take goes south instead of north, and
there we go.
Geno was going to hit that sash either way, I think. It's a 2-for-1 in favor of Luminosity. An overcommit there, it felt like, onto Geno. ShadowChair's pathing in that spot, risky but very effective when it pays off. Was able to come in late to the team fight and really zone off the rest of the team while still doing really relevant damage with his ultimate.
And I know it's early, but this is already much better.
Yes.
For ShadowChair here. 1-0-1 and a little bit ahead in terms of experience. No pressure either.
It's a low bar. I mean, that was a really tough start to game one. I mean, it's not like not being 2 levels down at this point is a much better position.
Zapman in some trouble here now too, as I gotta agree the last game was rough. Geno will find that kill. Neil is transformed and is gonna do his best to breathe all over Clout, and it is proving to be a little bit too much for him, as he can't find a way to get out, but the jump gets blocked. That means he won't have enough damage. In fact, now he'll get turned on, and Clout finds the kill.
You hate to see it for NeiruMah in that spot. I mean, he uses the leap. If he lands the leap onto Clout,
yes.
I think he kills him, and then doesn't die to the eventual axe, hail of arrows, bladed arrow combo, but he didn't, so he did. They don't think it'd be like it is, but it do.
Yeah.
Well done, Finch. All right, I can cast for someone else now. I've done all I can.
That is peak.
I've done all I can do here, folks. It's all over. It's all downhill.
Aggro Finch has peaked as a casting duo for
seriously. Clip that. Goodness.
ScaryD gonna make the rotation back over to defend, but that's unfortunate there for Neil and for Zap over there in the dual lane to take that spill. Now Geno on this Naja, which is the support, by the way, and I won't even get to talk about it, as ScaryD's about to get dunked on. Weekend comes over to finish the job and just kind of claps the rat, puts him down.
All set up by Kiki, though, as Kiki had a very good game one, all things considered, and his level of play has certainly risen in the fall
absolutely
split.
has, yeah.
I mean, kind of all through Season 5, it's steadily gotten better. He seems to have really gotten a handle on the meta. He's had incredible individual efforts on the Morgan in particular in the solo lane. Really, you never know what you're going to get out of Kiki, and that's one of the most exciting things about him as a player, and one of the hardest things to deal with about him as a player is you look at a Luminosity draft, you never really know where everything's going.
Purple buff stripped away, but Neil wants the punishment for it. Geno avoids the first stun, but not the second. Paul can't find the impale, but Desert Fury a little bit harder to miss. Paul eventually tracks him down and gets the kill into Geno, and ScaryD thought better of the engagement in solo.
That's a little bit optimistic there from Geno. We've been praising him for great plays like that, like he made in the last game, but that one, even if he lands on the Zapman, there isn't that much follow-up coming. ShadowChair was on the way, but he was still pretty far. Probably should have just ulted out a little bit earlier. As soon as he was stunned by NeiruMah, that might have been the call.
Clout now in the 1v2, but seems to still want to take this match, and I don't see why not. Zapman not going to provide a ton of pressure right now on this new wall, so you might as well feel comfortable standing up to him right now as Weekend here on this Cabrakan pairing up with ShadowChair. You were saying earlier that you kind of like this Cabrakan here for Weekend in the middle lane, and I think I like it too. This wall definitely has some potential, and if you can lock anyone in there with ShadowChair's damage, then they certainly have nowhere to go.
That is a great point. That is, you cover the entire area of Tectonic Shift with that opwash damage, so you may as well end up making it count. And anyone will die if they get locked in there. Even Neil. It is just way too much magical burst damage. And Neil's actually going for a Void Stone.
Oh.
Right off the bat. Trying to up the damage that Zap is going to do. This leaves him pretty vulnerable in this spot. But if he's able to use his disjoint properly on the Draconic Corruption to avoid that Opwash Corpse Explosion damage, or it could work, but it is risky.
Weekend ends up picking up the red buff off their successful invade that LG were able to pick off. I'm not 100% sure if it was intentional. I think he gets stunned right on top of the camp as ended up dropping, so he might have planned to all along, or that might have just been unfortunate. But now, speed buff will be picked up by Geno since Weekend can't make use of it.
Oh, Geno feels so bad about that. I mean, he's just so broken
Right,
up.
taking one for the team.
Yeah, wow, really. really impressive from him as Gold Fury is dead.
Yep, that's a good call by Trifecta. That's what Fafnir can do for you, especially with a Hunter mid. Geno wants to try and come find something on the back end, but he's all alone. Even with that speed buff, really not much he can do, but he's still sticking around. NeiruMah and Paul are still both right here, and Geno going to have to think better of this.
Good call by Trifecta to go for that moment, but Zapman is really far behind in net worth. I mean, by 500 gold already.
That's surprising that's happened. ShadowChair finds a much better ultimate this time, covering that whole area, and it is going to cost problems with Scary D. Blink forward by Sam, though, does find the two-man taunt. Two-man knockup. Weekend takes a bunch of damage from the tier 1, but still not enough. It's Scary D who's low, and Clout jumps in aggressive.
Scary saw a dash, so he's safe, but was cutting it pretty close in that spot. Tier 1 tower still stands, and Luminosity doesn't seem to want to give it up quite yet because Kiki is on the way. He has to teleport into mid, and his presence alone might be enough to secure this.
They can just do this
for Luminosity, but you're right. I mean, they can just walk in at this point.
They are going to finally take it down. I think they had to wait this long, but they have now secured it. Tier 1 tower down very early on in favor of LG. Almost the exact reverse of the immense pressure Trifecta had in mid lane last game as Geno takes an impale right to the face. ShadowChair wants to try and strip away this red buff over the wall, but will not be successful in that attempt. They'll settle for oracles instead.
That red buff invade for Luminosity has been critical this game because it's kept Paul behind ShadowChair, as ShadowChair has to use the beads off a good taunt or hammer from Neil as ShadowChair jukes out that ultimate from Scary D. Paul wanted to step up and use Desert Fury, but really couldn't afford to.
Cloud on the backside finds Scary D. ShadowChair gets the kill, and Scary D gets punished for the over-aggression into the tier 1. Now Trifecta have a long way to run to get back to some safety as LG punish.
There is not a ward in sight towards the mid lane. You know what's a good thing to do when you don't have any wards near the mid lane? Why don't we go ahead and gank that tower? Like, just go underneath it. Just dive there. I mean, bad decision making. Bad decision making.
It really is a problem there. For Scary D ends up getting punished for that. They overaggress a little bit too far, and this feels like to me too much of a hangover from game 1 because they get ShadowChair so far behind that it is kind of free ganks at a certain point for them, and there's not enough response. Geno can't find the Windfire Wheels. Paul and NeiruMah team up to get that return kill as Zapman's in trouble as well. Weekend finds that one. But they're committing a little bit too much, I feel like, to try and get ShadowChair when it's really not as nearly as viable as it was last game.
I just don't understand why the NeiruMah pick here. I'll go into it a little bit later. ShadowChair is under siege from Scary D. Neil going to jump in as well, as this time Scary will land that through the Cosmos and will finish off the kill on a ShadowChair. Neil should be backing up because Clout's coming.
Neil is able to find that jump over the wall. Clout can't land the axe. They're heading right towards SamForSoccer, who will be their backup should they need it. But yeah, I'm right there with you, right? I mean, what's this? How much is this NeiruMah really providing for?
I mean, it's like, hey, we won last game by going pure pressure the whole time. Let's not do that this time around. Let's surrender all pressure in the duo lane. And Zap has not been able to stay as safe as we've seen players like Emilito when they pilot this NeiruMah ADCP. He's consistently been pushed underneath tower and unable to secure his own buffs with help from the team. And it does need to be a team effort around this NeiruMah ADC to make it work. And Trifecta has been a little bit more focused on making sure that mid lane is going well than duo lane is going well. And NeiruMah ADC isn't really a fire and forget sort of role. You need to be babysitting it at least a little bit to make sure that the enemy ADC isn't getting super far ahead. I mean, Zap just now finished boots. We're 13 plus minutes in, and he's only got 30 stacks of the Warlock staff. He's only a third of the way there on this Warlocks. Now, sure, it gives them late game insurance, but the rest of their draft is kind of early game focus anyways. Is NeiruMah ADC all the late game that you need in order to win a late game, battle against a character like Puch? Remains to be seen because Luminosity's composition isn't exactly a late game dominant one.
Unfortunately for them, even where they put their pressure in mid lane, they seem to have lost that too. So at least if you're a Trifecta fan, things aren't working too well. But if we can see those charts, it's not as if it's all doom and gloom for them. I mean, the game's relatively even. 700 gold, 700 experience is about all that separates them in each direction. So yeah, the early game hasn't gone as dominant as it went last game, but that just means Trifecta now have to kind of like, lace up their boots and get ready for a mid to late game tussle instead and kind of make that mental transition.
Weekend has traded in his very funny little hat for a less funny, bigger helmet in the Dynasty plate helm.
Disappointing.
Disappointing indeed. But this item, 1,700 gold, nice and cheap, gives him basically everything he needs up in the mid 2v2s and 3v3s up against Sam and Paul in particular, and gives him power. And then the Void Stone after that. I really like the build that Weaken's gone for. It does, this pick for Cabrakan, it's not just for the walls, but it's for the slow immunity against that shifting sands.
Scary D can't find the stun. ShadowChair is going to drop the ultimate, and Scary D will take a ton of punishment in return for it. Scary's still up on the tree, trying to decide if he still wants ShadowChair. Aegis gets baited out. That's enough for Scary, and he leaves. But now Paul might be too far forward. Sash forces out the beads. Kiki blinks forward. Disney Torment can't find him, and NeiruMah's the one who's in trouble.
Neil just able to escape a look at Weaken. Here he comes over the wall. Blink is there. Finds Paul. Great impale, but won't be enough. No, it is. Paul's out.
He's able to jump out, but Geno's found himself another target. SamForSoccer gets Clout. Scary D finds ShadowChair, and Geno takes down Zapman. A 2-for-1, but again in Trifecta's favor. They found a way to answer back as they look for Geno here in the jungle.
Sam, good knock up. That gives him a shield, and he'll need it as he gets that kill onto Geno. Where did the damage come from on Weaken? Now he's actually out from the slow from Kiki as Kiki's trying to take the 2v1 and very nearly wins it.
Gets away from that paralyzing spit, and that really should just change the whole complexion of this little 2v1. Able to land the pin, but Kiki has it back up again. He wants to try and find the trade. Stun lands, can't find it. Scary D gets another kill. That makes it 4-for-1 overall. Trifecta finally answer back, and now they grab a Gold Fury.
Man, the fact that Paul ends up surviving that engagement and NeiruMah, I mean, Neil comes in and ends up making sure that Sam stays alive in the end, and that's a huge play for Trifecta. Luminosity just truly a couple dozen damage numbers short of having that team fight end up in their favor. Instead, Trifecta not only win the team fight, but get the Gold Fury as well.
And that was the big answer back that Trifecta really needed. I was just talking about how even this game was really by all metrics. Now Trifecta have about 3,000 or so gold out in front, about 3,000 experience as well, which was normalized just a moment ago before that fight and went so heavily in their favor. As Geno's off the mark with Windfire Wheels, Clout has been punished and will fall back. NeiruMah's going to jump away as well, but can he make it? Weaken is so fast. Closes the distance instantly. He goes up into the Draconic Corruption and is looking for the turnaround.
Gonna jump onto Geno. ShadowChair should be the target, though, from Scary D, as Scary's actually looking for Clout, and for good reason, because he gets that kill pretty easily.
Knock up sends Geno back to the grave. Kiki controls 3 and pulls them right back towards the damage from ShadowChair, but the rest of the team doesn't care. They want Weaken instead. Kiki knows how low they are, but just can't finish them off. Trifecta just barely get out of there.
So many red health bars. Kiki's got Blink, and so should be able to get Zap here. Indeed he will. Zap now falls to 0-4. As Luminosity seems to be hanging on by just a thread. Trifecta looking good right now, but eventually those health bars will go from red to dead pretty quickly in the later stages, so they need to be worried about how close these team fights are momentarily.
SamForSoccer has Kiki, but Kiki still has the lead. Scary jumps in, finds the stun. Flurry of Acorns is right there. Got to be careful, though, with Weaken right around the corner, but Weaken doesn't want anything to do with this now that Zapman's here, or rather Paul on the Anhur as a nice impale puts him against the wall. Really not much more going to come from that. But you described it as later on, because the fights are so close, that Trifecta could be in trouble. I mean, do you really think this could go so heavily in LG's favor in the late?
It's just that ShadowChair's damage is basically unanswerable.
Sure.
I mean, Opwash just hits his own and says, you're not allowed to be here anymore, and there's not a whole lot you can do to prevent that. I mean, Sprint will help, but Neil is the only one with a Sprint, and once that Gem of Isolation comes up, even just a single fleeting breath here or there will prevent you from disengaging at that low health pretty easily. Now, Zap's going to be continuing to get better as well. He's been completely ineffective through the first 19 minutes of this game, but will eventually bring not only guaranteed damage in the form of fire shards, but also big pen to try and kill Weaken and Kiki in particular. Don't forget, those clay minions are awfully good at killing tanks if you're set up with something like, I don't know, say a Fafnir chain stun into a Sunder picked up by Neil in this spot, which is really just designed to kill Kiki and Weekend in particular.
And he bought it, I believe, last game as well, or at least we certainly saw one being fired off. I believe that was Neil. But yeah, that does seem to be the idea, right? To sort of center around that big explosion. And unfortunately, up till now, there hasn't been an opportunity. Zapman, as you sort of highlighted, has really not had much of an opportunity to accomplish much on this NeiruMah. That might just be par for the course, though, as he's built a bit late and hasn't really been positioning for any aggression. But he's also up against an Ullr who just forced down a tier 1.
Zap's totally fine losing his tier 1 here. It's 500 gold spread across the team at 20 minutes. Isn't going to be anything to really write home about. He's A-okay now that he's got that Divine Ruin. He's going to be doing a lot more damage, and it ups the kill potential against that Opwash.
Kiki's been in the CC chain for a little bit too long. City and Torment will be irrelevant in this fight as ShadowChair drops the ultimate too late to try and follow up, and that means that's 2 ults down and 1 kill for Trifecta, without really having to commit a whole lot. Neil did have to use the Draconic Corruption and will back during that time, but Trifecta aren't looking to fight anything else. They found their pick.
It's just been, like I said in game 1, there are just some weird pathing decisions from both of these teams. And, you know, these are the 2 teams that are trying to look up at the top end of the SPL and catch up to guys like the space stations, the splices apparently, the E-Uniteds in particular. And those things definitely need to be cleaned up if they're going to be trying to make their way to DreamHack.
Just about to cross over to the 21-minute mark. Goldfear will be back up in 30 seconds. Certainly could be a point of contention as Trifecta try and control some vision and space right now. They might even be considering a look towards Fire Giant, though. The lead's only about 5,000. It's not as if they can truly bully yet at this point, but you definitely could feel this kind of a lead. I'd be much more expecting this next battle to be around the Goldfear and Ryan. That really could kind of decide it, right? I mean, one more push for Trifecta, and we're looking at maybe a 28-minute game. But if LG can grab it, if they can win that fight, then we might be in for the long haul as they kind of slow them down.
Both of these teams have great jungle fights, though. So this Gold Fury engagement could be very volatile because you look at Opwash covers the entire jungle with his ultimate. It's so difficult to avoid his damage in the jungle that I'm sure Luminosity feels pretty decent about it. Also, Cabrakan ult gets more valuable in the jungle and the narrow corridors. Whereas on the other side for Trifecta, it's easier to find those minion stuns as NeiruMah in the jungle. Shifting Sands takes up a large portion of most paths and can set you up to get some damage onto multiple members and prevent them from aggressing onto you. So both teams probably feel pretty confident about a fight in the jungle.
Sentry wards have gone down to get vision control for Trifecta. Sprint coming out from LG. Perhaps they thought the commit would be a little bit heavier than it was, but Paul has taken entirely too much poke, and the blink in from Geno is there for the follow-up. Kiki right there as well. Paul has to use every relic he has, but he does make it out.
Very nearly makes it out indeed. Is a little bit of damage from Zapman's ultimate, but it's really only a little bit as Clout finishes NeiruMah. Scary goes in looking to find Geno, but can't quite finish him off.
A lot of low health bars there for LG, but there's really no way to get in there and punish them. Fire shards has already been expended at this point, but Scary wants to come in and have an answer. He does blink forward dash, doesn't find Geno, and Geno is indeed going to escape because of it.
Sam on the left-hand side now looking to keep pressure on as Weekend gets lower and lower. Scary does manage to find that one as Sam going to be axed and nearly put down.
ShadowChair has the ultimate available one more time. Going to drop that blanket. You don't want to stand there. Zamperstalker ends up taking a spill. Clout falls to Zapman. Zapman is taken in trade. Kiki now in the 1v2. Paul can't find the autos, and Kiki might make it out as the stash comes back from Geno, who suddenly has rejoined the fight.
Man, these slows from Opwash are just... I'm getting annoyed for Trifecta, and I'm not even playing against it right now. The slows are what set up this entire team fight for Luminosity so far. I mean, it's so difficult to play against this character in the jungle. I just highlighted that. But this is where they're not as familiar with playing against Opwash as they are against playing against other jungle-centric mages like, say, Khan or Zeus that do really, really well in the jungle. Opwash is slightly different than those in that you really just can't be that corpse surge distance away from him at any given time. NeiruMah poked out by a combo from ShadowChair. Then Paul gets hit by a fleeting breath. You just can't let Opwash free cast against you like that, ever. You need to be jumping on him. He needs to be the priority target right away, because even just throwing one fleeting breath onto Paul does A, stupid amounts of damage, and B, slows him down, which forces him to jump, which means that Geno has a good ultimate target as he's leaping away because he knows where he's going to land at. Now, Paul has a phenomenal reaction time to not get killed off of that and actually use the beads, and then a great taunt from Sam for Soccer, took Kiki out of range from Stygian Torment. Great team play by Trifecta to keep Paul up, but they need to do a better job of not getting poked out and put in that position in the first place.
Paul has extended the jump aggressively already to try and chase down Weekend and Kiki, but no real potential there to find it. To your point about the slows, they do at least have the one wing blade there for Sam, sprint there for NeiruMah. They have some tools to answer it, but certainly not enough for how potent it can feel in these fights, right? Sort of allow them to reposition as Gold Fury gets looked at one more time. LG are right here for the defense. Look at Weekend, who's just teleported into this as well.
Coming in around the backside and has a great angle. I don't think Trifecta knows where Weekend is right now.
Oh, wow. That could be a huge problem for them. He can come in the backside. Sam for Soccer blinks in, forces the beads out from Clout. ShadowChair now half HP, and not the optimal ultimate. It is only covering that one area as SmiteVOD goes up into the air looking for a target.
Scary's got his pick of the litter right now, and he'll bait out that Stygian Torment beautifully. Neil, first one in, and Luminosity starts to funnel in towards their towers and able to stay fairly safe. Geno still has his ultimate. That's the only one left right now. Neil's getting value out of his still, but there's no ultimates left on Trifecta.
A lot expended really on both sides. No relics available for ShadowChair. Keep your eye on that one as Geno is not able to find Paul, but NeiruMah falls almost instantaneously on the backhand side. LG, despite some low health bars, have found the pick and now control the Gold Fury. ScaryD is going to try for the loop around, but they got to recognize this. It's Weekend they're going to send to him.
Weekend doesn't have his ultimate. ShadowChair's ult is coming up soon, though. That full CDR starting to help him out as Sam manages to knock up 4, but he will fall.
Sam for Soccer gets taken down. Clout has that. The ultimate back up from ShadowChair, and really nowhere for him to go. Zapman at least finds that one, but ScaryD gets put into the ground as well. Paul and Zapman have to go on the run. Luminosity win the fight. Looks like 3 for 1 and grab the Gold Fury.
That is just such a high-risk play by Neil to jump in and look for the stun onto Geno there. I mean, did he? I wonder if he used his first ability, that hammer toss, the Cursed Strength, against the Gold Fury, because then he doesn't have the option to stun Geno any other way. Geno is able to skirt out of the way and then just immediately find an easy ultimate. It was beads nicely, but it means that Trifecta is on the backside, and Neil just insta-dies to the damage from the rest of Luminosity immediately upon landing. Whereas if he hits that stun and they kill Geno, they don't have to worry about their backliners getting hit by anything because Neil is still there to protect them a lot better.
Well, this is what I was alluding to, Ryan. Now that LG have been able to win that fight, the gold lead looking a lot smaller, isn't experience looking a lot more even. In fact, they've shifted the focus over to the Fire Giant side. In fact, Pyromancer in particular. Neil does jump away, but it's Kiki who's been isolated one more time. ScaryD goes up into the ultimate. They want to keep up with this engagement. He can't find the knockup on anyone. It has to disengage. Weekend, Clout, and Geno all able to regroup.
Now, Paul's already pretty low, and he doesn't have any lifesteal. He's gone for pure power in this build, so he's sticking with this health bar, but still sticking around at least for a little bit longer. As look at Weekend on this left-hand side, looking for Paul, but that'll force him back.
Paul recognizes, sends an impale his way. Pyromancer now at half HP, but been leashed. LG don't feel comfortable holding on to this one just yet. This is not a big-time objective. It's not worth dying here too much because you're right by Fire Giant. They can just capitalize if you commit too hard. Weekend goes in. Paul is low, but forces him back.
Beads by Weekend, and Sam had to use that Magi's Cloak bubble. Both get expended. Sam certainly happier with his loss than what Weekend is with his, who also had to use the Blink in that spot. Paul's done a really good job of using his ultimate for CC immunity. The kid's got mechanics, man. I'll tell you what. He is good at pressing his smite buttons. He really hasn't been caught off guard quite yet in any of these Blink engagements, whether it be from Geno or by Weekend. Paul has been right there with either relic usage or his ultimate.
Only one that hasn't died. The only one close is Weekend with 2. At this point, Paul really just has not been punched. But Pyromancer being bursted, ScaryD can't get there in time. LG secure, and ScaryD defensively goes into through the Cosmos. LG able to catch Trifecta backing a little bit too much and grab the objective.
Scary, if you haven't noticed, has gone for the Lono's mask, so his build is already done. You know, it feels like it's been a pretty quick game, but it's been 29 minutes, just plenty of action. 31 kills in 29 minutes is quite a bit of bloodshed.
Yeah.
But now Scary isn't going to be bleeding as much and also won't be causing as much blood because this Lono's really does decrease your damage dealt. 20% is really more than I think a lot of people give it credit for. This is I'm not a big fan of Rat with Lonos because even when you build mostly tanky as Scary has, if this is, say, I don't know, a Spirit Robe or something else tanky that gives him no other damage, he still does relevant enough damage that you need to respect it. But now with Lono's Mask, you can kind of just ignore him. And he brings some CC, yes, but once he uses the stun and the slow, it's kind of just an annoyance. You really don't need to respect the damage that Scary's putting on you anymore. So if I'm ShadowChair, I just don't pay attention when Scary's near me. Just go elsewhere. We'll walk away. And a lot of times, there's not a whole lot the Rat can do to you.
The relevant relics are up now, Ryan, for all of our carries. Paul, Zapman, ShadowChair, Clout should be relatively safe. Beads, Aegis available for all of them. Initiation Tool's back for Weekend as well. He has his Blink back off cooldown. And Kiki's going to be using his as he goes through the aggression onto Zapman. Sam blinks on the Clout. That forces out Beads and the Aegis. Sash comes in from Geno as Scary D rests up above the action, looking for a target. Kiki's half health. Knock-up lands, but also up in the air. Geno finds a target.
Perfect timing right as Zap was vulnerable. Now Zap's still up and alive as ShadowChair's ultimate a little bit outranged by the retreat for Trifecta, but it needs to be a full retreat as Clout doesn't want to let it go.
Pen will come through. The slow was rather potent from ShadowChair in that last battle, but they couldn't find any kills. One more time, a lot of ultimates expended, but no one ends up dying. That is relics from Clout and Zapman, Beads from Paul, but everything's still available for ShadowChair. He was able to comfortably sit on the backside of that fight.
Weekend just sits around and finds an ult now onto Zapman. What is Zap going to do against it? Doesn't really have the option to get away without that Fire Shard's ultimate, and that's going to be down for a little bit. Not a lot of CDR, only 10% for Zap.
And it looks like LG have transitioned into a Tier 2 siege on the right-hand side. They want to force Trifecta to fight while they don't have the resources. Scary D backs and teleports right back into the tower, so he is going to be full health and ready to rock. And it looks like LG don't want to go for the tower as much as they want to kind of try and bait Trifecta in.
No blink here for Weekend, but look at that. All the ultimates are up for Luminosity, whereas Paul, Neil, and Zap still are waiting on theirs.
Stun onto Scary D. Neil half health still at this point. He hasn't had a chance to back. Geno lands the sash, but it's Sam who gets the 3-man taunt and the 3-man knockup. Great initiation, but there's just no follow-up. Clout jumps over the knockup to get away on the backside, and Scary D can't find much, but Zapman can find Clout.
Paul gets Kiki, and Scary is buying a lot of time here. Finally goes down to that damage from Weekend, but ShadowChair has got to be the target.
They just must not have had any cooldowns. These three members of LG have been sitting at these health bars for 10 seconds. They do jump in. Zapman blows up ShadowChair. Geno and Weekend have got to run away. Paul was looking for the impale, but it just pushes Weekend further away.
Weekend and Geno able to escape, and Trifecta's so low that I don't feel great about pulling fire. In fact, I like this call. Stick the back as soon as possible, heal up, get towards fire, and try and secure it, because they definitely can in a what you would expect to be a 4v2. You would hope that they'll be able to do it. Kiki doesn't have his teleport, so it really is a true 4-on-2 on this Fire Giant pool.
Trifecta are on their way as well, but so is Weekend. He wants to at least be there to have the vision to know what it is that Trifecta are up to. 32 minutes, really nearly 33 minutes in. It doesn't even feel like it because there's been so much fighting. Don't worry too much about this kill. You have a chance at the Fire Giant. Geno and Weekend right here nearby. Fire Giant is indeed pulled.
Clout's on the respawn, though, and is already back on his way. Kiki as well. Look at where Weekend is around this backside, and he's got vision here.
They're definitely going to know where they are. Geno blinks in, can't find Windfire Wheels, but DPS on Fire Giant has been slowed. They're looking for the fight instead. Geno gets taunted back in. Desert Fury does indeed clean him up, but Fire Giant has not been claimed. In fact, Zapman now locked inside the walls, and KikiSoCheeky wants to punish.
Oh, the body block from Neil was sick! That saved Zap's life! Now Weekend is on the left side, and Fire Shards not quite enough to bring him down. Scary looking for the finishing blow from the top rope. Not even necessary. Sam got it under control.
Yeah, Sam for Soccer's been playing out of his mind as he turns back towards KikiSoCheeky. He will jump away. Pin will land for the root. Paul comes in as well for the follow-up damage, but Kiki is a tanky dog at this point. But Trifecta still don't have much to show for this aside for the 2 kills. They got to make sure they capitalize somehow.
You're totally right. Weekend did his job there, as did Geno. Just don't let them get fire. Now Scary has kind of been overcommit is right. He's dead here. For what reason? I mean, what is Scary doing there?
And that's Trifecta not being able to regroup and realize what they have to do with that win. They are going to move back towards the Fire Giant now with that AoE coerce. but Clout, ShadowChair are healthy. ShadowChair is nearby. He can't steal away the objective. Trifecta do claim it. He does drop down, though, the ultimate. Zapman stuck in it, has to Aegis.
Very
and
good,
LG need to disengage.
Zap trying to hug that fog, trying to stay up. ShadowChair canceled. Whew, the corpses didn't matter because Kiki had it under control, but Paul answers back in kind. Trifecta get fire, but lose it on Zapman and Scary. Certainly could be cleaned up here for Trifecta. Messy, but they come out with the objective.
And fortunately, Paul is their hunter, so the most important one does still actually have the Fire Giant, even though it is Zapman that goes down. Sam for Sacker, obviously important to have that one as well. He's had a tremendous impact so far as Paul remains undefeated, 6-0-8. That's insane. 40 deaths have occurred this game, and zero are Paul.
How many deaths occurred in the first game? Because 0 were Paul.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure Paul went unkilled in game 1 as well. This has been a set to remember for Paul. Without
it really
a
has,
doubt.
yeah. His performance has been incredible. And it's not just, like you said, his ability to make sure he's landing all his shots and position correctly, but the reaction time on those A beats and Aegis on the ultimate to get himself out of danger has been spectacular as well. And he's climbing his way up the damage charts. He was a bit lower down before these sort of prolonged engagements around the Fire Giant. He is finding relevant damage to compete with the likes of ShadowChair on the Puch, with Zapman on the NeiruMah. He's played excellent.
He really has. Geno's now picked up a Lono's mask as well to match that of Scary D's. And Scary has done a good job of absorbing cooldowns. Didn't need to absorb the ones underneath that tier 2 in the last engagement, but still has the right idea. As you've kind of gotten a preview of just how long it takes to take him down. That's the whole idea behind the Lonos, is yes, you could ignore him. Yes, he's not going to bring a lot of damage anymore. But if you have to look at him, then it's going to take you longer than you want.
Time to switch gears, though, for Trifecta into the siege portion of the game. LG.
My God, there's still 3 tier 2 towers.
It's a ton. They haven't really been able to do much at all on either side of the map. But LG have the Puch. Whenever you have Puch on your team, you always feel good about your defense. But what about the rest of this squad?
Who cares? They have Puch. It really is that simple.
Sure, I'm right there with you. Puch is just that strong when you're going on the defense. Zapman gets chunked just for the sin, I guess, of walking by the tier 2 tower and gets blown right on up by ShadowChair. Geno, I like the idea, but out of range.
Good idea, because Zap's beads were down, but he got back to base. Zap just can't be first one in there. I mean, that's like 101, right? You don't let your hunter go first. No, I guess is the mage. You don't let that one go first either. Let your frontliners be first one in. Weaken cost him his blink, but that's all it cost him. Weaken could be going for, could end up selling something for Polynomicon here if he wants to go for the full one-shot build.
I wouldn't be surprised.
I don't think that holding on to Dynasty Plate Helm at this point is a really good idea. It's not really very efficient anymore. Sure, you only spend 1,700 gold on it, but when you have an excess of gold, sell it for something. If he really wants physical defense and magical power at the same time, you're low on options, but Celestial Legion Helm, probably not very good here. I think I'd just say who cares about tankiness and go for damage, but if you want more tankiness, then there's better options.
Would be, I suppose, his only dedicated physical prod item at this point in the game, so there's some options to improve that if that's what he wants. No defense on the tier 2 tower there for LG as well. They're going to fall back to these Phoenixes, and it looks like give it up. At this point, with essentially all the builds finished off, the 1,500 gold for these tier 2 towers isn't really the problem. They're opening up the door now so that when they go for the Phoenixes, they're that much easier. But take a look. I mean, Fire Giant buff, I mean, it's basically done.
Yep. Then went by in the blink of an eye, basically. Felt like they just secured it and worked so hard to do so. Now it's Luminosity's turn to try and defend again. And again, these jungle fights don't outright favor Trifecta by any stretch. Puch is incredible in these little tiny corridors. ShadowChair's gone for the Magi's cloak. And I get it because there's so much blink CC coming from Trifecta. I mean, blink stun from Scary, ultimate from Scary, blink pin or blink knockup from Sam. But at some point, I think you just play to your character's strength and just say, yeah, I'm a glass cannon, but I'm going to blow you up before I end up dying. I'm not sure that, if you want a defense item, I think Mantle is just better. I think now that you've completed your build, I know we got Magi's, then Obsidian Shard, but now that you're here, Magi's is so easy to strip with just a pin from Sam that I don't think I like the Magi's very much on Shadow. I think I'd rather see him with the Mantle of Discord if he's going for a defense item. If not, something like a Rod of Tahuti would be absurd.
LG are rather far forward here, aren't they? They recognize that there's no Fire Giant buff. They're not substantially far behind. They're going to control this position around the Fire Giant, at least at this point in the map. Dropping some wards down, control the vision as well. And they're certainly going to be here for it, and why not, right? This game is not substantially in favor of Trifecta. Zapman drops the ultimate, will gain some vision on where LG are, and soften them all up a little bit for the rest of the team.
Even as a carry in that spot, I don't really mind getting NeiruMah ulted, because now I know how much damage it does. For the next NeiruMah ult,
right,
I've got a really good idea of if I need to Aegis or not, because that's often the question. Like, oh, I'm 370 health. Is this going to kill me? And then you kind of roll the dice whether you use Aegis or not and potentially waste it, or if you use it and save your own life. You know, there's options for you. But now you know at least.
Sash doesn't land, but very important.
That was
Paul
beads for Paul.
Has to use beads early on here in this engagement. Desert Fury as well. Paul now quite the easy target for LG, and he plays like it. He's very far back now.
I almost wonder if it's worth him backing and buying a Magi's Cloak.
Just because I'm with you, but he's so vulnerable now at this point in the game.
I think I would. I think I'd back and, I don't know, sell boots. Like, who cares? You're more vulnerable with less movement speed, but CC immunity, at least off the first CC, than with extra movement speed and no form of CC immunity.
He's given up a ton there, and LG been able to force it. Now, Paul has to make sure he's extra mindful of where he is, as Kiki's going to jump in aggressively. Up into the air goes Scary D, who was a little bit far forward. Paul jumps in towards Geno, a scary target to be at, but there's no ultimate there. Clout is low on the backside, but will fall back. Trifecta are hurt a bit, but they're still okay to fight.
That was the right idea, but Scary just a hair too early. Really wanted to keep that CC chain going, as this ultimate from Zap is really just a don't come and fight us anymore sort of ultimate. But I don't know if it really gets the job done. Everyone on Luminosity is still healthy enough.
Weekend wants to run in. Scary D dashing in to the tanky Cabrakan here at this point in the game. Pin hits several members, and Paul removes Kiki early on in this fight. Now Clout in some trouble, has to jump away from the Desert Fury. Paul, despite the lack of bead, still playing aggressive and still finding his shots.
Geno must have been hunting him with the Windfire wheels earlier, and
he did.
Ended up missing it. And that is the risk reward of Naja, right? Naja looks absolutely bonkers whenever you hit all of his ultimates, but when you don't, you're like, why am I playing this character again? Well, what's the point of all of this?
Fire Giant now goes the way of Trifectas. We crossed the 42-minute threshold. Trifecta had really felt like had control of the game earlier on, but couldn't close this one out. LG has done a much better job this game of kind of staying even when you can see, even though it was close, most of that chart is down there in that chaos side, the red territory, showing Trifecta. Can they cross it home? Can they get the Game 2 victory? Scary D goes up into the air. This is where they're going to have their fight, but ShadowChair drops down the ultimate to zone everyone else away.
Scary was looking for Clout, but Clout was far enough away, as Sam doesn't even lose the Magi's Cloak bubble. But look at this positioning from Sam. He's really isolated as he'll head back towards safety, but Neil is getting poked all the while, as now Geno looking for a little bit more action.
It's very, very heavily poked, and that's enough for Trifecta to at least hang up the hat for now on this Fire Giant push. They have 3 more minutes on it. They can certainly back, regroup, and try this push one more time. But, man, LG are not making it easy for them. They are stalwart on their defense of these Phoenixes, at least at this point. A lot around ShadowChair on this Puch, and a lot on some engagements that they can't find. Scary D being ambitious and not quite able to bring them home.
Neil with this Pythax piece is a good idea. It really does up your late game siege potential, makes your team fights better, and that's something they need up against such a good team fight composition from Luminosity. But it makes him very squishy in that he's only getting 200 health as far as his tank stats from this item. And he just sold his Void Stone for a Shogun's. And I like the Shogun's pickup. It's really, really good for your Erlang Shen. It's really, really good for your ADC in the mid lane, is specifically one that doesn't have an attack speed steroid. And Paul, who actually just sold Aussie to pick up Odysseus Bow, really worried about his attack speed, even now foregoing any sort of lifesteal at this point. I still wonder that this whole build for Neil is centered around he can't get poked by ShadowChair. It's good against the tanks, or good against Clout, and it's good against Geno, and it's good enough against Kiki and Weekend, but he's getting prot shredded by Kiki, Void Stone for Weekend, and then the insane damage plus Spear of the Magus from ShadowChair makes it difficult.
Well, let's give it one more try on this mid lane Phoenix here, Ryan. Up into the air goes Scary D, and ShadowChair's ult has been forced out without much commitment.
That's great.
From the rest of Trifecta. They'll trade Scaries for for ShadowChair pretty much any day of the week.
Oh, without a doubt. I mean, ShadowChair even has bubble. It's not like he was going to be under siege in that position.
Scary D is going to blink in one more time, but it's a bit slow and ineffective. And that means Clout can just stay standing and actually put in good return damage. Weekend and Geno are both half health as well. Desert Fury comes through, but doesn't quite hit home. SamProSoccer does get the knock-up on the Geno, but they still can't seal it off. And Neil's going to end up falling down to Geno.
Zap has ult and now uses it. I don't think that's going to be... Wow, that did a ton of damage.
Sam gets Clout too.
3K pot for him there is great Aegis from Zapman. ShadowChair might have just one-shot him had Zap not had that relic available. Trifecta's got to try again without their support once more.
It's 4v3. ShadowChair doesn't have the ultimate just yet, but Sam might have gone a little bit too far forward. Kiki with the blink, but I don't think he knew exactly where Sam was. They do get the mid-Phoenix, or the TP rather, and he comes in the wrong way and can't punish.
That was close. Sam nearly bit off more than he could chew, but is able to get out anyways. A successful siege for Trifecta, not in winning the game, but at least they finally get a Firebird down. And this is why it's worthwhile playing new IADC and being down 1 million gold in the early game, is because in the late game, you do an absurd amount of damage. I mean, like I said, Zap's had a 3K at the time, so yeah, 911 magical power.
That's a lot.
That's a lot. So that's 700 damage from Fire Shark.
So you must feel bad because mid laners used to have numbers like that all the time, but it's a little bit harder, I feel like, to get up there this season than it used to be.
Yeah, it is kind of sad. It was so cool, dude, to like look at your power and be like, oh, I've got 1100 power. Y'all mind if I Scylla crush this dude for 1600?
You mind if I literally erase him?
Plus Soul Reaver proc, by the way.
Yeah. I don't miss it. I guess some of
Why
y'all
not?
do. I don't miss it at all.
Why not? It's cool.
Is it?
Yeah.
Is that the word you'd use?
Bigger numbers are cool.
They're definitely bigger.
I know.
Fire Giant should be back up here in about 30 seconds, Ryan. And Trifecta can give this one more try. Really, it has been so hard for them to get a lot from it. The first Fire Giant, they get the tier 2s. The second Fire Giant, they get that mid-Phoenix. But Luminosity each time have stuck with them and made it difficult. But Trifecta, they want to try and find a pick here in the jungle. They want to take this fight. They can't find it, and so they fall back.
Kiki noped out of there real quick.
That's the right call.
Immediately around the corner. Indeed it was. Trifecta's going to get an enhanced Fire Giant this time around. Should they secure it, though, Luminosity can't imagine they feel comfortable walking up to defend. Now, though, I don't hate the idea of them defending.
Sure.
Really, I mean, you look back at that last siege. ShadowChair just can't panic all. If he's able to hold empty the crypts for the true initiation, then that fight goes way better because Luminosity killed Neil before anything really happened. Neil has got to do a better job of staying up and alive, and I wonder if selling that Pythax piece is a part of it, or if it's just understanding that he's not as tanky as he'd like to be. I mean, he doesn't even have a Mantle of Discord.
Right side Phoenix certainly could be the call here now for Trifecta. 47-23 is on the clock. Sam is going to keep the mid lane pushed up where they should have fire minions pumping in now at this point, while the rest of Trifecta can push here on the right-hand side. They've actually sent Clout over for the defense here with the Odibo to make sure that he's the one clearing up and leaving the rest of the team on right. Scary D is going to go up, and immediately the ultimate from ShadowChair, and Trifecta immediately with the disengage.
I've seen this one before, but I liked the setting of the last one a little bit better. I don't know, this movie setting wasn't quite as good.
You know, sometimes just the time of day you see it can affect, and I kind of like the matinee better.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that makes sense.
I don't know what it was. That ended up working in their favor as Scary D goes aggressive. He wants ShadowChair.
That's
really no one there to peel. It's great poke as Scary D finds a weaken. Sam forces out Clout, who nearly dies to the fire shards, and now Kiki in trouble. Neil is the one that brings him down. Right side, Phoenix now in trouble. 5v3 Trifecta in position to maybe take this game, but still they're putting on the brakes. They don't want to jump in yet.
Just go with a wave. Just go with a wave at this point. I mean, you could even get left side Phoenix technically and still have 30 seconds, but this is the better call. Trifecta trying to get in there and end the game.
NeiruMah takes about half HP. Geno is forcing out Paul on the right-hand side. They can't find a target. Sam takes down Clout. ShadowChair does put the ultimate down, but it's not over the Titan. The rest of Trifecta comes in on the left-hand side and puts in damage there, but they're going for kills and not for Titan damage just yet. Paul is looking for it. He finds it. Trifecta able to take down LG.
Man, it was tough, but they get there, and another great performance from Paul. He didn't die, by the way. 49 minutes.
Insane.
49
That's insane.
Minutes. It didn't die once because he played just really, really well. Great performance from Paul. This is a breakout set for him, not just a breakout game. I think this is a really good look that look, he'll struggle against the Baskins and the Venenus of the world at times, but if you had any doubt about whether he belongs at this level, that is the set to prove it. I mean, ShadowChair is very much struggling right now at the SPL level. Back-to-back Phoenix Sieges where he makes the same mistake both times in a row. That has got to get remedied. Like we said, Luminosity has HRX aspirations. Right now, ShadowChair isn't playing at that level, and they need to figure out what's going on.
I mean, the second Scary D's going up in the air, he's dropping the
Yeah.
It's just too. Even if that's the plan, that's too soon.
Yes.
It isn't working out from there. They're gonna have to get that cleaned up a little bit for LG if they want to bring it home. But it is Trifecta that come out looking strong in the back of that game. And who's your MVP for it? One more time, I feel like I want to say Paul.
Paul was good.
Yeah.
I think Neil played really well in both
He did.
games. I think that he was impressive. Zap did stupid Nuwa damage in the late game, so, chat sees top damage, they vote top damage.
That's true.
Wouldn't be surprised. I think Scary, outside of the one bad mistake in the mid lane, did a very good job. It was a good team effort from Trifecta. They just have to clean up some of those weird decision makings.
A little bit more work to go for both these teams, but a strong performance from Trifecta. We'll get those closing thoughts, though, from our analysts on the desk.
Thanks so much, Cassis. Yeah, Trifecta managed to find the 2-0, and for my money on the MVP before we even get to that bit, if you don't die in a 40-minute game, that's a pretty good sign that you did okay.
It might be a pretty strong indicator that Paul might be deserving again of a secondary MVP vote. I was actually rather impressed with what Sam for Soccer was doing with the Erlang Shen. I think he did a great job at neutralizing a lot of Luminosity's initial aggression during teamfight engagements by knocking them up consistently. The transformation timing on Erlang might seem rather simple, but in the chaos of an actual moment in SPL play, it can be a little bit more difficult to keep track of. I think Sam did a great job keeping his map awareness intact.
I'm talking about Luminosity a little bit there. That second game, a lot better from them than game one. They had a little bit more control in their sides. If anything, we talk about chaos of the team fights. Well, they brought a lot of chaos with that Cabrakan, the Cerberus, and the Puch all combining nicely. It's a much better team fight.
It was working at the start, I think, during the initial laning phases, but as time went on, they just encountered more and more difficulties because of, I think, Zapman also bringing to the table a lot of the mage damage that Trifecta were kind of missing out on in game one, but still made work because they got their double hunter composition on the roll. And I just liked the team effort overall from Trifecta. It was a much better performance as well from ShadowChair. I think he seemed to fit the mesh a little bit better with the outwash second time around, but I do feel as though Kiki suffered a little bit more so for that. It felt like Kiki was constantly throwing himself into awkward positions, trying to peel for his teammates, and that would usually result in him getting picked and putting Luminosity into a pressure spot as well.
The Anhur will be the MVP in that game. Paul Undying, the Undying Paul is what we need to know him as now after 2 games in a row. He didn't fall down once. And one on Ullr, one on Anhur. Well, it shows you that he must be doing something, right? It's not just a one god wonder.
He's definitely making sure to be very mindful of where he chooses to stand. Just even on this exact play, you can just see how far away he is from the actual action taking place. That's a fight that's being regressed on halfway up, and yet Paul, every single time, the only time we see Paul is if he has assisting members with him.
He's always waiting for the supportive cast to be around him to make sure he can confirm that damage and stay in a relatively safe spot. There was moments in that game that LG shined though, but this is a surprise. I think a lot of people came into this expecting LG to beat up Trifecta here, myself included, but credit where it's due, Trifecta came out to play today.
You're not the only one, don't worry, Hinji. Trust me, I was right there with you.
Yeah.
I really did not give Trifecta the benefit of the doubt in this one. I felt as though their previous performances had been incredibly lackluster, even with the team having undergone a couple of roster swaps. I know that Sam is a competent person and player, and so I thought that if they were struggling then, they were probably still going to be struggling now. And Luminosity, it turns out, was actually the ones who got caught off guard.
It's been an up and down season for LG. Have a look at the standings and see how this all works out after today. United still top of the shop at 5-0. Trifecta 1-3, but it does improve and brings CLG alongside them and LG now. So the top and the bottom, there's a bit of a divide coming there in North America.
And it is just a storm all across the board, if you ask me. Because looking at Europe, I mean, it's heavy on the top side, not so much so on the bottom end. But for NA, it's just all over the place. The only clear out in front leader of the pack is United.
Yeah, clearly, and that's the case for North America. Let's have a look at the schedule, though, to see what we've still got to come this week. Obviously, we're all through Wednesday, so it's on to Thursday, and that's Europe tomorrow. We get to see Dignitas take on SK Gaming and see if SK Gaming can, well, try and find a win against a team in Europe that's not lost yet. And the Mouse Spots, actually, did they lose?
Mouse?
No, they didn't. No, I was talking about Dig. And Mouse versus
no.
Obey. Now, Obey on the up and up, and Mouse still running in circles, so to speak.
Mouse have been, I think, also just experimenting a lot more than usual lately, really trying to take advantage of the fact that it's early on in the fall split, and they have this period to kind of figure out what works best before entering into the Worlds.
Definitely a big game on Friday, though. CLG versus LG. Keep an eye on that one, especially with those two teams both trying to vie to get into the top 4 of North America. But that's the schedule for you. And all these teams, obviously, trying to compete to get themselves to the World Championships. A reminder yet again to go buy your freaking tickets. If you don't get them, you can't be there because there'll be no tickets left. November 16th to 18th, hi-rezexpo.com. Come see Smite, come see Paladins, come see the staff and all the other fans that love the hi-rez games that you've come to know and love through the years.
And don't worry, guys, there's still the after party that you need to keep an eye out for. Also,
all you want to do is talk about after parties.
Hey, well, I've got my priorities sorted
clearly,
out.
mine are in a different order, but you love the after party.
I'm trying to hang out with some peeps after the fact, and I think this is the primary time to do it.
Yeah, the main event too, where you get to have fun bowling with people and sometimes laser tag and things like that. It's pretty fun. I got suspended at a high wire. They've got a crawl and assault course at one of the main events. And my first year there, I got a little bit too drunk and ended up on that. It was a mistake.
That sounds like a mistake.
Oh, it was. I'm a big guy too, so you can imagine how I felt being drunk. But I think that's all we've got time for tonight.
I think that might just have to be it.
Should we call it?
A little bit of a... do you think that's an upset? Would you clarify that as an upset? Luminosity dropping the ball there to
Let's be
Trifecta?
honest. I think LG fans may call it an upset. Trifecta will be like, no, they've been waiting for a while. That's it, though, from everyone here at the studio. The Smite Pro League will continue tomorrow at 3 p.m. as always with those two sets. But don't forget, Smite Minor League begins at 11 a.m. tomorrow morning. Tune in to catch the European Minor League in action and maybe see some future stars in the Rising. Have a wonderful rest of your evening. Be nice to each other. We'll see you tomorrow.